Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Juggernaut and this is Dune Spice Wars. Dune Spice Wars is, as you can see right here, an early access game. Currently I'm playing in version 0.1.19 point something. But what is it? Well, these will be my first impressions of this title. I guess I haven't mentioned that already. And, well, to begin, this is a strategy game set in the Dune universe. Is it leaning more towards the Dune movie/movies or the books? There are some subtle differences between the two. We'll see whether that even matters all that much in the general lore and gameplay perspective, but it is set in the Dune universe, and it is not the first strategy game set in the Dune universe. There is one published many years ago, I think in the 90s or so, maybe early 2000s. You'll forgive me, I don't know the exact date, you can look it up. I honestly forgot to do it before starting the video, but it was very much in the similar vein as this. Let's get into it right away. Actually, let's go into the options menu first, because there's not a lot here, right? Tutorials on and off, autosave, graphics, a good number of graphics options considering the relatively simple nature and, well, simple and straightforward nature of the game. Input, which you can change, as you can see. And separate audio sliders, everything fine and well. So, first of all, let's pick our faction. I'm going to go with the Harkonnen, because they're kind of, I don't know how to put this, scary and also fascinating at the same time. Alright. First, we pick two counselors. 50% all your music goes to fund upon death. That's not bad. Malicious slot, stealth probe. Can use corruption on Landstrand resolution, causing a loss of Landstrand standing for faction. 10 influence upon killing a rebel. Hard, easy. Let's go with the two easy ones, considering that I know very little about the game. I'm going to keep everything on normal, and let's begin. Okay, so here we are loaded into the game, and unfortunately, the game doesn't have a dedicated tutorial system. However, it is an early access, things like that are to be expected. Excuse me. I'll try and, in my limited knowledge of the game, this is just a first impressions video of course, but in my limited knowledge of the game I will try and walk you through some of the basics. So, if you've seen the Dune movie or you've read the books, you will feel right at home with most of the mechanics here. With that said, this is not similar to the Dune game that I mentioned from the 90s. That one was more of an RTS where this is an RTS as well, but the central mechanics and themes behind the previous one were mostly faction versus faction combat. Not to say that that doesn't exist here. The thing is, you're mostly going to be dealing with the economy and the local planet, rather than trying to sabotage one another. Late game, I don't know, probably there's more PvP combat or faction versus faction combat. Fair enough, but for now, let's take a look at the most basic elements of what we are here to do. And what you are here to do is, obviously, collect spice. That's all you're here to do. Now, how much of your spice is stockpiled and how much is converted into this, you can determine with this little slider here. Thing is, by default it's set to 70%, for one very good reason. Why would you want to stockpile all your resources? Well, the Imperial Tax. The Imperial Tax is due to the Imperium, the Emperor, and it is the condition of your presence on Arrakis. That means, you fail to deliver the spice, you're out. Most precious substance in the universe, spice can be sold to the I'm sorry, I have no idea how to pronounce any of these. I've read about them, I've heard about them, but I don't know how to pronounce them. I'm sorry, there's this, and there's going to be like the Ornithopter. I think it's the Ornithopter. If I mess some of this up, I am genuinely sorry. Okay, detect stealth units and send them from further away. These units can't be attacked cannot be targeted by any attack. Alright, awesome. Getting started. So, our priority is to set up spice harvesting operations. We must find a village in the region with a spice field. Search for spice, recon villages with spice in the area. That's our current objective, and you know what, I'm going to turn this off because I'm going to send you manually, because I get the feeling that will be faster. Something I am currently doing is I'm building 2 units, troopers and gunners, and I'm also building another scout unit. So you know, that's what we can do from the get-go. Other elements of the economy are Solari, that's kind of your currency, your money, right? The official currency of the Imperium. Plascrate, I think that's how you pronounce it. It is metal, basically. It's a versatile material. It is used to build structures. I think some units use it as well, but mostly for structures. Manpower, fairly obvious. 500 is the max stocks. You use it to train crews, vehicles, soldiers, everything along those lines. And, of course, fuel cells. A lot of these resources you see here operate on a upkeep system. That means that every unit you recruit has a hiring but also an upkeep cost. A very, very good example of me showing you this would be the fuel cells and the water. Water is necessary to sustain life, as I'm sure you are well aware of, but because we're training a unit of troopers and a unit of gunners, each of them will require 3 water from our total income. Water is not something that we can stockpile, rather it is a fixed value that we have to keep positive, right? We can't stockpile water, we spend it the moment we get it pretty much. It is just, you know, it's there just for upkeep. Fuel cells pretty much exactly the same. 2 ornithopters, that's 4 fuel cells down, and obviously you will get more of this as you expand, conquer new territories, etc., etc. Now, to me, probably the most... sorry, dry throat, give me a second. To me, probably the most interesting thing, when I mentioned combat in the game and all that stuff, is the fact that you can interact with the other factions on the planet. Even with the Fremen. Even with the smugglers. These are the only factions currently available, and there might be more in the future, but... Anyways... We can, for example, open up a trade agreement with Leto. And we will. Yeah, you will conduct diplomacy, you will interact with these people, and it's not just a simple command and conquer style RTS where you build up your base, you send your units to the enemy's base, and you kill each other. No, there's more depth here. You're going to be fighting the planet a lot more than you're going to be fighting Leto and the Fremen. At least initially. Later down the line, like I said, there's gonna be more things. Alright, we also have Hegemony Points, or Hegemony Points, however you want to control, however you want to pronounce them. However you want to pronounce it. You gain that from controlling regions, paying spice tax, from characters, standing with the Landsraad, ally, whatever that is, defeated enemy units, crafted workshops, etc., etc. There's a whole bunch of things that you can get here that increase your hegemony, and you can spend hegemony points on upgrading your base. For now, that's the most basic, pun fully accepted, pun fully intended. The reason I said accepted is because the trade deal was accepted, and I just mixed the 2 sentences in my head, my apologies. Anyways, there is also a speed control. You can double the speed of the game. I really don't recommend it because I'm having a hard time keeping track of everything that's happening, with pausing the game, but I guess the more experience you get at it, the faster you might want to play. Right, so Atreides and the Fremen already have a certain amount of hegemony, so we're going to need to try and catch up to them. Here are our 2 units, and something I haven't mentioned, which the game has mentioned previously, I think. Or it should soon if it hasn't already. The supply system. So, every unit has 4 stats. Power, health, and armor, fairly self-explanatory, right? Attack, how much health, how much armor, reduces incoming attack damage. Pretty obvious, right? Supply is the logistical aspect of the game. Now, it is fairly simple. You need to keep your units supplied by having them be in the area of your base or a controlled village. Just put them in the red area here and they will receive supply. Once, however, they are out of the red area, they will start losing supply. Let me demonstrate. There you go, they're now losing supply. Harsh deserts and harsh terrain is especially damaging to supply, and if a unit loses all of its supply, well, you can imagine what happens then. So, let's begin with attacking the village of Euron. Here, it is defended by ranged militias, which we should be able to take care of relatively easily. Let's send you after them, and you after them. Right. And we also have the artillery supporting us, so this should be a relatively easy battle. And there we go. No, a bit more. A bit more, I suppose.
Copy that.
Actually, let's grab this with the ornithopter. It'll be a while until I get an agent. And there we go. We're now going to take control over this place.
Nothing will stand in our way.
On the move, Master. We'll run.
Wield instruments of doom.
And we're now taking control over the village. Also built another scout unit, so let's go ahead and put it to good use.
Yes.
And we're about to grab our first village and begin our spice harvesting operations for the glory of the Empire, of course. And for no personal benefit to our local house whatsoever. Wink, wink. Okay, so there we have it. Once you take control over a village, it will be defended by militia. Now, obviously we don't have any right now because we've just taken the village, but eventually it will be defended by militia. You need to defend your village just like you... Well, not just like you took it, but, you know, in an inverse way from how you took it, basically. You know, you're doing the same thing as the previous defenders, you're just trying to do a better job of actually defending the village. You can spend 15 manpower in this instance, for example, to oppress the village, and it'll give you more resources, and buildings constructed 200% faster, and 20% militia power is added. It increases the productivity, but it does cause unrest when the effect ends, which is kind of like a... Well, it's kind of like a... how do you call it? Like a cooldown effect, where it sort of does the opposite then, right? Because the unrest, people are going to be a bit unruly, shall we say. Alright, so I'm going to resolve this, and I'm going to scout over here. For now, we don't need to do anything in this particular area. We can, however, look at the tech. Yes, this is tech. So, obviously, there is an intelligence network, survival training, composite materials, and local dialect studies. These are kind of your 4 different branches of technology, 4 different categories or types of technology, if you will. This is just a first impressions video, this is not a review, so I won't be going into each and every one of them individually to give you a sort of idea of what this does. But this is your diplomacy and spying, this is your army, I suppose, and survival training, this is construction, and this is control, authority, economy, stuff like that, right? Sort of general umbrella terms for the 4 different thingamajigs. Being the Harkonnen, I think we should begin with... I think we should begin with this, because I do intend on conquering a lot of villages and building a lot of stuff in them, so... let's start with that. Obviously, these two things we can't interact with just yet, and I don't think we can build a harvester right now. But we shall see. Alright, so there we go. We've done getting started, we've reconned the village, and hopefully now we're going to get a new mission.
What do you need?
Soon.
Yes, Master. On the move.
What's our
He
next
says,
step?
really hoping that it is soon.
Ready for destruction.
No? Oh, here we go. Rise to power. So, 2 military units and control 1 village.
Listening.
Already done that as well.
What's our next step?
So, what's next? We're making progress. The last thing we need to do is start producing spice by constructing a refinery in the village near the spice field. Construct a refinery in the village located near a spice field. And it is now unlocked, and we can begin construction. 3 types of buildings, as you can, probably tell. Also, you can train your own militia, as you can see, and you can pick and choose what type of units you want. The good thing is, you do not pay upkeep for these units, so you spend manpower and Solari on recruiting them, but obviously because they are locals, because they're not going to be moving around, they're not a standing army, you don't need to pay them in terms of food and water, they provide that for themselves. So, for now, I don't think we need much of a garrison here. It is rather expensive, considering we don't make a lot of money. Let's instead go over to the building and see. So, obviously we're going to build a refinery here, and we're going to put it down. Well, considering the spice field is there, I think we should put it as close to the spice field as we can, right? Maybe. And that is under construction. As you saw, there are multiple different types of buildings you can build within a village. But we are going to display all of that, hopefully, when we conquer the neighbouring village of Ul-Waz over here. Okay. So, for now, we're just waiting. I could build another unit or something. I could maybe even construct some militia, but I don't want to do that. I don't feel the need to. Let's attack the thing over here, and we have combat happening. Oh, yeah, combat right here. Alright, this time around, let's focus fire on...
Awaiting order. En route? Yes.
one of the 2 units. I was hoping we would get artillery from this direction. Apparently we're not going to, despite the fact that I've explored the entire area. Okay. Okay, we're not getting artillery support. Fine. Oh, sandworm detected. Here is where we run away. For fairly obvious reasons. Right. Now they might come towards us, and that's all fine and dandy. But we've detected a sandworm in this area. So, sandworms, as you can imagine, are very, very dangerous. As far as I'm aware, they are unkillable. But if you know the whole lore behind the planet and the series and of Dune, you know that the point isn't to kill them, you need them alive, because they are the ones that produce spice. So, you're just going to have to deal with the fact that occasionally, out of the middle of nowhere, a sandworm might come up and swallow your entire army. Obviously, you do get a bit of a head start, I guess, over the worm. That does require a little bit of micro, though, not just with the army, but with the resource harvesting as well. So, for example, we are building a refinery over here, but what happens if we have a harvester collecting spice here and there's a worm warning? Well, you stop harvesting operations there immediately. Much like the plot of the movie, or I think roughly the first, 30 minutes of the movie or so, maybe? Yeah, just like that. Let's set these guys on auto-explore, because I feel like they're going to be doing a better job than I am of exploring this whole thing.
On watch.
And, yeah. We're just waiting at this point. Also, these guys do regenerate health when they're in proximity to base, so that's all good. In 4 days, we're also going to get our research done, too. Okay, and I think at this point we can also get some ranged militia here, maybe. Yeah, let's get some ranged militia here just in case. And here's our harvester. Now, you thought the harvesting operation is automatic? Not really. It can't be because of the sandworms. Harvesters will attract them. At the first worm sign, you'll have to recall your harvester if you don't want it to be destroyed along with its crew. You can increase spice production by adding crew to your harvesters. Now, enable auto recall. Will produce less spice, will automatically recall when a sandworm is detected. As you can see, there is a risk and reward system here. Okay, deploy. And this is also what I wanted to show you. We're gonna deal with the harvester in a second. Spice silos. Obviously, refinery we've already built. Maintenance center, wind trap for rain for water. Fuel cell factory for fuel. This for metal construction. Obviously, water extractor, fairly expensive. Look at the upkeep, but at the same time produces a ton of water. Processing plant and so on. These are your economy buildings. As far as army buildings are concerned, recruitment office for more manpower production, airfield for, well, you guessed it, a missile battery that automatically attacks enemy units in range and in your territory. Kind of like this, except, you know, you get to build it and you get to see its range. And also a military base. Here we have the statecraft buildings. That's your knowledge, research, stuff like that. So intel, influence, knowledge, and generate 2 hegemony per day. Right, and that's more or less it. Right, that's more or less it as far as the game's basics are concerned. Like I said, this is just a first impressions video. I won't go too into detail. The quests that you get along with the sort of tutorial-ish aspect are in plenty to get you involved into the game and to get you to, you know, start playing properly. I will say that I am a bit of a sucker for simplistically done little games like this. I say simplistically in a visual sense, where, you know, it's nothing too groundbreaking, but the mechanics are there to make something extremely satisfying. That, along with the fact that the game is, you know, in early access, and that there will be a lot of content added, and there's going to be more depth and more stuff to build upon, I think this is a phenomenal little project so far. And I'm calling it a project because this is 0.1.19. If you encounter any bugs, if you encounter a starch lack of content for your taste, anything along those lines, you know that, you know, this is just the beginning. So I will call it, rightly what it is, a project. But I think it's a brilliant little thing. The fact that it is an RTS with all the combat elements and all of that, but at the same time allowing you to build a sort of, you know, empire and world where you don't necessarily focus on just blowing up the other guy's base, but actually building up your economy and then using that economy to various ends. Like, for example, hegemony here can be earned, as you can see, through a variety of ways, and currently I'm leading. Well, actually, no, I'm not. The Fremen are, but, you know, we'll deal with them as time comes. You can do this the same thing a bit more peacefully. Obviously, conquering villages is kind of necessary and not really. You know, there's no really two ways around it. But the amount of, you know, how brutal you want to be with your occupation and all of that is kind of up to you. You know, how much do you want to oppress the local population and so on. The fact that all of that is up to you, and the fact that this is not just a pure military, you know, rush their base and blow it up kind of game, but that there is more to it, I think makes it really, really fascinating. And I would love to see the game expanded in that direction. So, for example, maybe, you know, you don't fight anyone at all. Maybe you just focus on the economy. Maybe you pay extra taxes and the Empire looks fondly upon you and, you know, they give you new units, or they give you some kind of bonus, more resources to play around with, like other resources or something. That would be cool. To sort of, you know, build multi-dimensional RTS where it's not just a military focus, but there is more things around and there is greater depth. Anywho, let's play a little bit more and have this guy deployed. Now, I would like to... Let's attack this again, but I would like to... If it allows me to. No, probably not. Huh, I guess not. Okay. I was going to say, I would like to... Give me a second, I'm sorry. I would like to increase my crew here, but apparently I can't. Oh, add crew, it's literally right here. Costs 50 manpower, Jesus. Okay. I'm gonna add crew. There we go. So, research is finished. Tech tree, relatively limited, as you can see. You know, once you've finished all of this, it's done. They take progressively more time to research, obviously, so it will take some time to get through all of this. But it's not the most extensive thing ever. Of course, I expect that will change over time. But we shall, I suppose, see. Let's go survival. Actually, let's go with this. I want to cancel. Yes, I want to cancel. I want to research this. You can also queue research up, as you can see. But I prefer to do it one at a time, because, you know, it depends on what I will need when. Alright, let's hope the sandworm doesn't appear over here this time. And here we go. We're almost... Well, we're not quite there in terms of paying the Empire its due, but we're kind of nearby as well. So I think we've finished this task, and then also take a look at this for a second. The ongoing siege. There we go. So I think so far we're producing 25. We've yeah, this is pretty good. We have 25 stockpiled, I think, or no, we're producing 24, 25. We have stockpiled 13, and we're converting the rest of it for currency. That should be good enough. That will put us, I think, within, well within the Imperial Tax thing before time, or rather before the deadline. So all is well in that sense. Now, let's take a look at the village over here. We can pillage it for resources. Heavily damage the village, loot its production and render the village unusable for a month. Or you can take control over it, obviously. Taking control will require authority and water. We have just enough water to grab one more village. Pillaging it will not do any of that, but the village will recover after a month. Mind you, a month is a lot of time, but we will get money out of it. So for now, we don't need money that much. Instead, why don't we grab one more village, and there we will build something. Here we also should build something. We really should build something. And I would like to build something that makes me money. Well, that would be the refinery. So we have that covered. And then what else are we going to need? We're probably going to need water. And for a wind trap, +3 water for each level of wind in the region. Armies filter, scouting, village resource filter. Wind strength 2. So this is literally the worst place to build a wind farm. Okay, got it. Nearly built it. Nearly built it, not gonna lie. So instead, why don't we make this concrete factory thing, or a plascrate. Yeah. We don't need that much of it, but the refinery is eating up a fair bit. So let's just put down the thing right there, right? And I'm assuming that's one of the primary resources when it comes to actually building
What's our next step?
a empire properly, so yeah. Okay, because there is a sandworm there, I'm going to move the army out of the way.
One step closer to target.
As you wish, Master.
Oh, really? Oh, I did not expect that. Damn, that sucks. I thought the circle here was where the sandworm is going to attack, and that's why I sort of moved them back and forth, because I don't want to lose the occupation progress, but... Huh, that was stupid. I wonder if I move like one unit here and one unit here, whether I'll just lose one. Or not. That was, either way, that was mighty stupid. And unfortunate. But like I said, sometimes you just have to accept that a giant worm will come out of nowhere and eat your entire army. Too bad. Anywho, that's about it. That's about it as far as the first impressions video is concerned. I think that's quite enough. For now, let's save this as create a new save slot. Oh, we just keep creating them. No, never mind. Let's save right here, go back to the main menu, and try with the Fremen. So obviously they will have different buildings, they will have different things to do, but let's get the... I think like last time, let's get the two easy ones, because I don't really know what I'm doing. And let's start up the game as them, just to show you the other faction and how it works.
Ready
And the way it works, as you can see,
for patrol.
is pretty much exactly the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you
I expected the Fremen to maybe work a little bit differently, and then there to be some kind of different system there, I suppose you could say. But no, they have Spice Bribe, due to the Spacing Guild. Sorry, not the Spicing Guild. Well, really, same difference, right? Condition of its tolerance of your activities. Yeah, so pretty much the same thing. They don't pay tax to the Empire, but they have their own empire, I suppose, in some respect. There you go. It's exactly the same. You do exactly the same things. So you know there are differences between the factions. Don't get me wrong. It's just that they don't play drastically differently. It's more or less the same economy. All right. Good. That's about it, I think. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching the video. Like, subscribe down below if you enjoyed it, and we'll stay tuned with the rest of the content that I produce on the channel. Multiplayer currently isn't available, however, I'm assuming that it will be. Ultimately, do I recommend the game? And what are my sort of concluding final thoughts on it? Well, the game is €30 currently, or $30 on Steam. It's an early access, and the asking price, I think, is a little bit steep, given the early access nature of it, and given how much content there is. The gameplay does differ from faction to faction, and now I'm talking about this after I've read a little bit more about the game. I'm not, obviously, if in case you haven't noticed, me talking right now and what you just heard about 2 minutes ago, there's about, I don't know, 6 or 7 hours time difference between the two, so yeah, I've looked into this a little bit more. It is a bit of a steep asking price. The game itself is kind of slow-paced, as you can see, which I actually genuinely like, because it puts focus on the economy, on the management aspect, rather than just the raw, brutal violence of war. This is Spice Wars, but it is Spice Wars, not Wars. Like someone said in the Steam reviews, I think, this isn't Dune 2000, the strategy game, the one that I mentioned, which was, I hope, released in the year 2000, because that will be very, very fitting. Anyways, this isn't like that. This is its own mechanics, it's very, very different, and it is very fun. You do get a very nice, satisfactory, rewarding feeling every time you advance your empire. You research new tech, you conquer something, you expand. It honestly gives me similar feelings to when I'm playing Civilization, for example. It's kind of on that level, just real-time and not turn-based. It does get that, just one more turn kind of feel to it, which is great. But at the same time, the factions do not play drastically differently, which you kind of would expect the Fremen to be, I don't know, a bit more different than they are, maybe? And maybe the Harkonnen to be a little bit more brutal and to have more brutal tech and to be, I don't know, more morally evil, I suppose, than the Atreides, which, okay, to be fair, if you're looking for, clear-cut morally good and bad in Dune, then you've come to the wrong place. I know, I'm well aware of that, but at the same time, I expected more differences between the factions, let's just say. At the same time, the game is very, very fun to play, I cannot deny that. Aside from, the occasional bug, which I haven't found yet, but I haven't played that much, and everything else that I've mentioned, the game is very, very fun to play, and it's an RTS that I'm really looking forward to getting more time into. And that's not very common for RTS games nowadays, and I think this is a very fresh and unique take on an RTS game, combining something like, the Command & Conquer style of building and unit management with the economy of more of like a Paradox style game. And putting the two together in it really does make them work, and it fits the lore and the universe of Dune very, very well, with the way flavor text works, with the worms, and how key of a mechanic they are. Spice with the Imperium, with everything. It does really create the world nicely, and it does follow the lore very nicely. Mind you, I'm no Dune expert, and if you want to ask me about Warhammer 40k, I'll talk about it all day. Dune, I am aware of it, I know the lore behind it, but I'm no expert by any means, shape or by any, in any way, shape or form. That's what I was trying to say. Anywho, ultimately, bit of a steep asking price, but if you're alright with paying a bit extra for, well, not a bit extra, but 30 euros isn't that much, especially given the recent inflation, right? But if you are willing to pay a little bit more for an early access game that doesn't have all the content right now, but probably will get just better as time progresses, then yes, ultimately I do recommend this title. I think it's graphically really, really neat too. Like, I really like the graphics. It's not overly gritty and in your face and brutal and, visceral and whatever. It's kind of simplistically done, and that gives it a very nice, charming little feeling. I love how tiny the buildings are when you move them around, and how your troops move and all of that. It's simple, it's straightforward, but it is cute, and it looks nice. Alright, that's about it. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Like and subscribe down below if you enjoyed the video and want to stay tuned with the rest of the content that I produce on the channel. Until next time, have fun, take care, and bye-bye. Oh, and I just realised I did the whole outro thing twice. Like, I said like, subscribe, and all that stuff twice. I apologise. I thought the concluding remarks were going to be just like 1 or 2 sentences, and I'm just going to say bye, but I really needed to explain a little bit more about, the whole game and my thoughts, because it is a $30 game. It warrants a bit more of an in-depth explanation. Alright, that's it. See ya.